Hey, I'm Emma Garlett, and on today's episode of Paint It Blak, I'll be looking deeper into the Banksia Hill Detention Centre, which has been in the news a lot recently. I'll be delving into the history of the child prison, take you inside the walls and barbed wire fences, and look at the mistreatment of some of the children, which has been recently revealed. And I'll examine the severe pitfalls of locking children in cells at 10 years old and what needs to be done. Now, before I start, there may be some descriptions and themes of violence and mistreatment of children that might be distressing to some viewers, so please take care while watching. Join me as I paint it black. Banksia Hill Detention Centre is a prison for children aged 10 to 17 years old. It is the only child prison in Western Australia. The child prison has both male and female children, and it is for children across the state who have been sentenced to a period of detention, have been arrested and are waiting for a first court appearance or bail determination, are waiting for their court case if they have been denied bail, or are waiting to be sentenced after conviction. Unlike many of the adult prisons in WA, the child's prison is located within the metropolitan area in Canning Vale, a suburb south of Perth CBD. WA has an obscure history when it comes to locking up children. Firstly, the age of criminal responsibility is 10 years old. At 10 years old, children's brains are not developed, they can't get a licence, and they can't vote. Most 10-year-olds have their baby teeth. To put that in perspective, a lot of other countries around the world have an age of criminal responsibility of 12 years old, but more commonly 14. Aboriginal young people are overrepresented in Banksia Hill, and all prisons for that matter, and make up around 74% of the population in the prison. There have been many reports of mistreatment of youth in Banksia Hill, and social campaigners have long called for change, but so far their advocacy has fallen on deaf ears. With a youth justice system in the pits and repeated calls for a system overhaul, we know the system is broken, and some of the treatment reported is inhumane. Unfortunately, it was only a matter of time until the inevitable happened, and the cracks in our broken detention system widened and erupted. That happened on New Year's Eve when tensions at Banksia Hill boiled over into a riot. 22 teenagers, 10 of whom were at least 18, were involved in the riot. The teens set fires to cells and demountable buildings. Specialist police had to be engaged to escort the fire crews into the centre to extinguish the flames. And to make this more concerning, the teenagers had batons, handcuffs, helmets and shields. A riot is not a small incident. It is serious, and there likely will be serious consequences. In my opinion, as well as that of justice advocates, this riot isn't a result of bad kids wanting to do bad things. This is a clear sign of a sick system. In WA, we have seen our fair share of riots, from the Fremantle Prison riot in 1988 to the Acacia Prison riots in 2021 and 2022. Let me make this clear though, riots are bad and are not to be encouraged or endorsed. But when our children are locked up and causing outrage, we need to act. It could be seen as a cry for help. There is one question which remains for the Banksia Hill riot. Why did it happen? We know the system needs to change from punitive control to therapeutic care. The unjust treatment of youth in Banksia Hill must be addressed to ensure their human rights are not abused, and the age of criminal responsibility must be raised. Anything less than fixing the root of the problem, which culminated in the riot, will only waste time, money and resources. And in the past 6 months, Banksia Hill has been in the spotlight. And while it's been for negative events, finally we are looking deeper into what has been making those kids want to cause chaos. There have been excessively high self-harm incidents and suicide attempts in Banksia Hill and Unit 18 at Casuarina Prison. Recently, the WA Supreme Court found it was unlawful to lock a 14-year-old boy, a detainee of Banksia Hill, in his cell for more than 20 hours a day on 26 occasions over 4 months. And the footage, released in November 2022 by Four Corners, showing a Banksia Hill detainee being restrained by several youth custodial officers with the hog tie method, caused outrage across Australia. With the footage coming to light showing the nature of the child prison, and the fact children have been in solitary confinement, something needs to change. A class action has commenced against the state of WA, which involves more than 500 current and former detainees of Banksia Hill. A girl with autism was one of the former detainees. And she claims she was treated like a dog. To make these matters worse, she was locked in solitary confinement for more than 7 months, with self-harm, dressings down in court, the use of excessive force, and a class action. You can see the problems at play. Now we have the aftermath of a riot to clean up, and a detention centre which needs all the help it can get. There have been calls for Premier Mark McGowan to strip Corrective Services Minister Bill Johnson of his responsibility for this sector and appoint a new leader who can address the issue and get Banksia Hill back on track. But the riot is a symptom of a much bigger problem: the widening gaps in resources, the failure to implement therapeutic care for detainees, and the lack of focus and funding on preventative measures and programs for high-risk youth. Of course, we need the right leaders, but we also need the McGowan government to provide support and backing to focus time and energy into getting to the root of the issue and not simply taking the reactive approach to what is a crisis. What more evidence is needed for the McGowan government to listen to the many Indigenous voices which have been long calling for change to our child detention centres? Thanks for watching Paint It Black with me, Emma Garlett. Don't forget to subscribe so you never miss an episode.